Everything you're about to hear in the podcast today is, of course, through my lens, through my heart, through my mind, through my experiences, and hopefully through the objectivity that I have grown up with. And so having said that, that is the beginning to this podcast today. I have been to Israel. I almost moved to Israel. I should tell you that as well. I don't think I've told you this story before, but I must tell it to you because but for the grace of an intervention that you might say was otherworldly, I would probably be in Israel today. You see, it was a long time ago. It was 1979. I had just gotten my new PhD, brand new. I was an older guy. I was in my late 30s. I had 2 children. I earned a very, very hard degree to earn at the University of California at Berkeley, a great research degree, but there were no jobs, you see, for white males, especially Jewish white males, in fields that were innovative at the time. And so I had been in correspondence with a famous professor in Israel, the top professor. In fact, he was the chancellor of Hebrew University, a great scientist himself. And he said to me, if you come to Israel, after investigating my background, I can give you a fellowship for 2 years. And so I packed up the family and we went to visit Israel. It was 79. It was a big, big change in my life. I was going to leave California and live in Israel and be a research professor in the field of ethnomedicine. I was going to work, believe it or not, on ethnomedicine in the West Bank, of all places, with Arab folk healers, of all things. Would you believe this? This is really true. All right, so we go to Israel. We get there and all excited about it. I'm a young man. I'm going to have a research position in Israel. All excited. And I see my children were going to grow up in Israel. My son was 8 or 9 years old. My daughter was a baby, 2 years old. My wife was going to start a business there in the health food business. So a few nights into living there, after meeting with the professor who was going to give me my teaching job, I told the family, I told my wife, I have to be alone to think about this. And so I walked around the streets of Tel Aviv that night alone. I admit that I had a couple of beers alone in a couple of cafes alone. And as I walked on the streets of Tel Aviv, must have been 2, 3 in the morning, a strange thing happened. I heard my deceased father speak to me. He had been dead 9 years. And here is what he said to me. He said, Michael, I was an immigrant to America. Do you want to make your children an immigrant to a foreign country? The next day I packed up my bags and went home. I went back to America. That's how things work in my life. And I'll continue in a moment right here on the Savage Nation podcast with my very personal perspective about what is going on in Israel and Gaza right now.